Okay, good morning. Right, so today first we'll do agile development and finish that subject. So gradually we want to finish the subjects, okay? So we have done 2022 and 2021. Let's finish the 2020 paper. So then agile is done. So we will not touch agile anymore unless you have any specific question, okay? Right. 2020, first let's go through the MCQ paper. Right, under which situation should an organization choose agile methodology for their software projects? So remember, multiple answers are possible. Okay, yeah, one no more. Customer collaboration only occurs at the contract negotiation stage, so that is not a good situation for agile. So we need continuous collaboration. The project require comprehensive documentation. No, agile we don't do comprehensive documentation. The requirements are stable and will not change even late in the project. So then actually we don't need agile, right? But anyway, requirement stable is okay, but then we can even go for waterfall, right? So we'll keep that. Team only needs to deliver working software at very end of the project. So again, that is not a prerequisite for agile. Working software is the principal measure of progress. So that is one of the key principles in agile. So therefore we'll go for E. We'll go for E. Yes, answer is C. Okay. Second one. Agile developments specially focuses on achieving these success types: personal success, technical success, organizational success. Without it, source code will eventually collapse under its own weight. So that is technical success. Without it, the team might find they are no longer wanted in the company. That is personal success. No, right? Okay, let's see. Without it, you would find it troubling to motivate yourself and other employees. Without it, team might find that they are no longer wanted in the company. Maybe that is organizational success. Without it, you will find trouble to motivate yourself. So that must be motivate yourself means personal success. So therefore, I'll go for A3, B1, and C2. That is E. Okay, that is C. Yes, that is C. Okay. Right. So this is not a difficult paper. Which of the following statements these are true regarding how agile methodology saves cost in software projects? Okay. Which of the following statements these are true regarding how agile methodology save costs in software projects? Avoiding unexpected opportunities to reduce risks. Avoiding unexpected opportunities to reduce risk. So we don't want to avoid opportunities to reduce risk, right? So that is not a good point. That is actually a negative point, which is not part of the agile. Second one, whole team project progress when key individuals are unavailable. What is that? Whole team project progress when key individuals are unavailable. But anyway, it's not a good point anyway, right? Making the software easier to maintain. So that is good point. So that is a good point. So that we will take. Okay. Releasing the least valuable feature first. No, it's releasing the most valuable feature first. Waiting until the very last moment to cancel a bad project. No, in Agile, if you feel like things are not going well, we can cancel it early because no point wasting time. Okay. No point wasting time. So therefore, I'll go for C. Okay, I'll go for C. Yes, C. It looks like though they say multiple answers are possible, right? So therefore, there will be negative marks. But it looks like so far only one answer is correct. But anyway, don't always believe that, right? Because examiner might change and so on. Right, fourth one. Which of the following statement is correct regarding lean values? Lean means we do the minimum essential. Okay, we eliminate waste, increase productivity. Avoiding unpredictable customer behavior is essential. Unpredictable customer behavior. So that is good point. Okay. Uh, they ignore various human conditions. So that is not good point, right? So we need to understand various situations humans go through. They focus on the productivity of the employees rather than on their well-beings. So that is not good thing, right? So we must consider both employees' productivity as well as their well-being. So that is a negative point. Offshoring process to other countries with unfair labor cost in lean value. So that is not a ethical thing. That is not something to do with lean. Of course, we can do offshoring, but not for countries with unfair labor cost. Seek, embrace, and question ideas from a wide range of disciplines. So that is a good point. That is a good point. But I don't know whether it's directly related to lean. Right. So what about now? We have two answers, but it looks like only one is answer for most of the questions so far. Okay. So therefore, let's again look at it. Avoiding unpredictable customer behavior is essential. Seek, embrace, and question ideas from wide range of disciplines. For safe side, I'll go for E because it looks like examiners keep going for one answer, but we never know. Of course, this will only reduce few marks if only one is the answer. If you don't want to take risk, you can mark both. But I feel like taking bit of risk, and it looks like only one answer so far. Of course, you can't see the answer sheet in the exams. Okay, but just go through this and see some patterns. Okay, and see when the examiner is setting something like that, but you never know. Your paper is set up by a different examiner. Okay, so therefore don't come into that kind of conclusions in a very rigid manner. Also, be always flexible. Of course, you can do some predictions, but don't stick with those. I'll go for E. So this is a little bit of a stubborn answer for me. I will not go for A, but I'm taking a bit of risk. Okay. Right. Four answer is C. So because the pattern seems to be only one answer is taken by this examiner. Okay. 5. Select the most suitable option for filling the blanks in the following statement. Development is plan, rework strategy. Plan, rework strategy that uses multiple process to improve that we are building so that we can come together in a good solution. Okay. Plan, rework strategy. Okay, let's read all three. In development, we assume that we will understand everything right at the beginning and product will come together late in the development. So that is plan driven. That must be plan driven. Detailed planning upfront. So therefore, I'll go for this one, not incremental or iterative. Then now I have shortlisted two. In development, we break the product into smaller pieces so that we can build some of it and learn how each piece behaves in the environment. So that is basically incremental. Break it into parts, right? Smaller pieces so that we can build some of it, learn how each piece behaves in the environment. Small incremental, okay? But anyway, now let's again read the first one. Development is plan rework strategy that uses multiple phases, multiple passes means iterative. Right? Multiple passes means iterative. Sorry, this one is more incremental. C, sorry for that. So C is incremental. So in that case, so this means this looks pretty much iterative, right? Multiple passes. So therefore, I'll go for A. Right? I'll go for A. Yes, answer is A. Sixth one. Developing a new product is surrounded by several forms of uncertainty. Among them, what is the most suitable definition for means uncertainty? So remember means uncertainty, how uncertainty, who uncertainty. So whose requirement we must focus, right? Which requirement we must focus? That is what uncertainty means. Uncertainty means there can be different ways of doing things. So uncertainty means which way we should go. So that we need to discuss. What is the best way? That is we mean by means uncertainty. Right. The uncertainty surrounding the feature of the final product. So that is what uncertainty. Inexperienced development team. Okay. So that is not direct related. Product backlog grooming. So that is basically to minimize the what uncertainty. Process and technology used to develop a product. So that is mean. So mean means how do we do it? So that is process and technology is pretty much related to that. Sprint execution. Of course, sprint execution also includes some mean uncertainty, but so I prefer answer D, but because I feel like most of the time one answer is correct also. Again, don't take it that kind of a decision because in the exams prematurely. Okay, right. So I'll go for D because mean means the process, technology. So that's more related to D. Yes, answer is D. We can see so far I am pretty much in sort of 100%. Right? So almost all my answers are correct. So you should have that kind of a confidence if you have studied this properly. But of course, there can be some fussy questions later on. But so far, no fussy questions. The advantage is so far the paper only one answer is correct also. Now you can see that all of a sudden when multiple answers are there, all these headaches are there. But it looks like so far this paper only one answer. That make our life easier. Which of the following statement these are correct regarding principles of in Agile Manifesto? Remember, there are 4 items in Agile Manifesto. It is enough to deliver a working software only at the end of the project. No, we need to deliver working software at each iteration, at the end of each sprint. So that is definitely false. Prioritizing user requirements over other stakeholders. What is that? Prioritizing user requirements over other stakeholders. I don't know that it is relevant. Let's keep it. Tightly controlling the software development team. No, we don't do tight controlling in Agile. Agile means flexible. Continuous attention in maintaining high quality design and technical aspects of the project. That is good, right? Continuous attention in maintaining high quality design and technical aspects of the project. So that is a good point. Okay. Fixing requirements at the end of the requirement gathering phase. No, we want to fix things upfront, especially requirements, right? So it's a ongoing thing, right? So it looks like B is also okay, but go by the pattern. It looks like only one answer is correct so far. So therefore, I'll go for a D. Continuous attention in maintaining high quality design and technical aspects of the project. So it's ongoing thing. Okay. It's not directly mentioned in the Agile Manifesto, but this is related. Of course, this is not something directly mentioned, but I'll go for D. Yes, examiner has taken D. 8. Which of the following statement is correct regarding performance in Agile development? Right, performance. In Agile, there is minimal ceremony. Yes, we don't go for ceremonial things, wasting our time. Agile is a document centric. No, Agile is not a document centric. It's not process heavy. It's lightweight. Testing in Agile happens at every end of the life cycle. No, testing happens throughout. Through Agile, we can carefully and sequentially perform work to get a high quality product. Through Agile, we can carefully and sequentially perform work. Sequentially or iteratively. Right. Okay, let's keep that open. In Agile, it is important to follow the plan and do the right things at the first time. No, we don't rigidly follow plans in Agile, right? We do just enough planning. So therefore, we'll not go for that. So remember, the pattern is only one is correct so far. So this is debatable because it says sequentially perform. So therefore, I'll go for this because this is definitely correct. In Agile, there is minimal ceremony. We don't waste time for ceremonial things. So then definitely answer must be A. Right? I don't know why so they should have mentioned that only one answer is correct, right? At the upfront. So then for some reason they have not mentioned like that, but only one answer is correct. Let's see whether other two papers also that is the case. Maybe then that pattern might continue. Okay, so let's double check the other two papers because you must pay attention to those things also. Did you see that kind of a pattern? What about 2022? Is it only one answer? Yes, right. So it's also one answer. So they are also one answer. So what about the previous year? 21. Yeah. So so far for the last 3 years, the pattern is only one answer. But again, it doesn't mean that in your paper that is the case. But in your paper, that probability of only one answer is there. So that maybe what you can do is, of course, you don't mark answers in your mark answer sheet at first, right? You first answer in your paper and then see if the majority, right? Maybe you can do about 5, 6 questions and see whether it's only one answer. Again, you can might say, okay, most probably one answer. Then you can spend less time because unless it is absolutely you feel like two answers are correct, you can always settle for the best answer. But again, that decision you need to take, right? That decision you need to take only after by doing about 5, 6 questions and see the pattern. So then you might feel, okay, maybe the same trend is continuing. Or you might feel like, no, this paper is different. So in the exams, don't, all your decisions must be strategic. Because if you see that pattern, and if that pattern is there, then you can do it faster. Okay, do it faster. So you must, if you can go for A plus, you must go for A plus. Don't settle for anything else. Okay. Right. So let's continue. So far, of course, now we look at the paper, it looks like only one answer. So therefore, we will always sort of go for the best answer in our question paper, answers. Okay. So that make our life easier because we don't need to think about might happen and blah, blah, blah. Right. Ninth question. Which of the following statement is correct regarding Scrum? A Scrum project formally begins by holding the daily Scrum meeting. Right? So that is correct, right? Formally begins by holding the daily Scrum meeting. That is the stand-up meeting. So it looks okay. Scrum team should be self-organized and cross-functional. Yes. Now we have bit of more than one answer situation. Okay. Scrum is sequential. No, Scrum is not sequential. It's not plan-driven. Scrum is not suitable approach when the requirements are changing frequently. No. When requirements are changing, we go for Scrum because we can absorb changes. Scrum is suitable for any software development project. No. Now let's see whether we can find one of the best answer because so far the trend is only one answer. ඒ trend එක දැක්ක හන්ද තමයි මම මේක හිතන්නේ නැත්නම් මම ඔක දෙකටම ගන්නවා. Scrum project formally begins by holding this says Scrum project, not Scrum project. Daily Scrum meeting is not to start a Scrum project but to start the daily activities, daily work. So Scrum project is not started by the daily Scrum. Daily Scrum is for starting the today's work. So therefore, I will not go for this. So therefore, I'll go for B. Scrum team should be self-organized, and that is always okay, correct. Right? So we can see that I strictly analyze this because by the pattern I know that maybe most probably one answer is correct. So then I found this. Otherwise, if multiple answers are possible, maybe I could have even marked this wrongly because I don't pay attention to that much. So I'm pretty sure now the answer is B. Answer is B. Correct. 10. Figure 1 shows the pre-game stage of Scrum. What are the most suitable terms for label A and B? I know there's something called pre-game, the post-game, and so on for Scrum. Okay, so Scrum is project. So this is any planning things. This is closing the project. Remember, this is not sprint. Scrum. Scrum means our project. Okay. So sprint pre-planning, sprint backlog is created. Okay. But this is sprint, right? Okay. I thought this is Scrum, but it looks like this is sprint. So then this is pretty much related to iteration because it says sprint backlog, not the product backlog. Okay. Okay. Let's see. I can't remember exactly what are those two tasks, be honest. But let's see whether we can get clues. Iteration plan, sprint review. So definitely it can't be sprint review because sprint review is done at the end. It's post game. So therefore I'll say no. Okay. Possibly product backlog because from product backlog we create the sprint backlog. And maybe release plan is good one because according to the release plan, we need to plan out which it influence which product backlog items we take. So this is a possible answer for me. This is iteration cycle. I haven't heard something called iteration cycle in sprint agile much. A product backlog, use case, business value. Okay, so that might be a good answer. Again, you have the sprint review, which I will eliminate. So if I can eliminate answers, that increase my chance of getting into the correct answer. Okay, probability. So therefore, I eliminate obviously two answers, A and C, that increase my probability of getting into the correct answer into 1 out of 3 now, not 1 out of 5. So which one do we go for? Because iteration cycle is something which is not, I'm very familiar. I will eliminate that also. Release plan and product backlog. Of course, if you can remember what are the pre-planned activities, you don't need to do this. Actually, I forgot. Right. So that is why I'm going by my logic or overall understanding. Product backlog and use case business values. Release plan and product backlog. So I'm really confused which one to go. Product backlog can use because this is sprint backlog. So I feel like going for B because this is considering both sides, release plan and product backlog. But so I don't know. Examiner might go for B or D, but I will go for B. I'll go for B. Of course, if you can remember, this must be mentioned in your slides, so then you can straight away go. Okay. Because I didn't look at the slides recently. Right. So I'll go for a B. Right. Examiner has used D. You can say I told that it's either B or D. So maybe in your slide, what they mention is product backlog and use case business value. Because ultimately what they are preparing is the sprint backlog. Right. So therefore take it as D. Okay. So this is the first time I made a mistake and lost a mark. Okay. And because this is multiple answers are possible, if I want to minimize the risk, I could have marked both because multiple answers are possible. So when multiple answers are possible, only thing what can happen is my correct answer I get +1. For wrong answer, I get -1/4. So still I must get 3 out of 4 because. But if the paper says only one answer is correct, so then the moment you answer more than one option, you get 0 marks. That is, if the paper says that only one answer is correct. Some paper says like that. But if the paper doesn't say like that, right? Of course, you can mark multiple answers. Of course, if that is wrong, you will lose bit of marks. So for this kind of a paper, because a paper says multiple answers are possible, when I have doubt, I will mark, say I doubt about two answers, I will mark both because I know that then even the worst case, I get +3 out of 4 if two answers, only one answer is correct. And if I mark only two. So those are the strategic things you can do. Remember, going for exam is also going for a war. You want to go there and win. I don't know. I don't want to go somewhere and lose. And also not just win, do your best. Not average. ඔය සමහර කෙනෙක් ගොඩ දාගන්නේ කොහොමද? යන්තම් ගොඩ දාගත්තොත් ඇති. ඒ ඇවිල්ලා කාලකන්ණි මයින්ඩ්සෙට් එකක්. ඒ මිනිස්සු නෙමෙයි මේ ඉන්ජිනියර්ස්ලා වෙන්නේ. IT ප්‍රොෆෙෂනල්ස්ලා වෙන්නේ. IT ප්‍රොෆෙෂනල්ලා කියන්නේ ලෝකේ ඉස්සරහට දැන් යන සුපිරිම සෙට් එක. එතන ඉන්න ඕන හොඳම සෙට් එක. ගොඩ දාන කට්ටිය ඉන්න ඕන වැලි ගොඩ දාන තැන් වල. ඒ වගේ පොඩි පොඩි ජොබ් කරන්න. 11. Which of the following statement are correct regarding Scrum rules? Of course, in Scrum, there's nothing called rules. So those are pretty much best practices and so on. Okay. So it's the word rule is a bad word anyway. The recommended Scrum team size is 15 to 20. No, right? So usually we don't go for 15 to 20. So it must be less than that. So, right? So 20 is a large number for Scrum team. I will say no. So there's no exactly same. For example, the time period is 3 to 4 weeks. Recommended time period. It might go a little bit beyond, right? 3 to 4 weeks. But I feel like 15 is a little bit too much. Maybe 10 to 15. Anyway, let's see. It's sort of a not a very well-defined thing. Maybe mentioned in your notes somewhere. But my gut feeling is basically it must be about 10 to 15. But this is also not too bad. A single Scrum team should only be responsible for performing a single function. One team for coding, one team for testing. So that is pretty bad. So what we need is cross-functional feature teams. Like feature teams. So they can do end-to-end development. Take one feature and do end-to-end development, not just designing, not just coding. So do end-to-end requirement analysis, design, development, testing, release, everything. So this is definitely wrong. In Scrum, work should be performed in short time boxed iterations. Yeah, that is correct. Short time boxed iterations. So this is a little bit debatable one for me. Let's see whether 1 and 3 is also there. 3 only is also there. So now I'm in deep trouble. So if I want to reduce my risk, I will mark both because then I know that I get plus. Worst case, I get 3 out of 4. Because the exam paper doesn't say only one answer is correct. So therefore, I must get only small penalty. Okay. But of course, here I'm not really facing the exam. Therefore, I will take a risk and select one of those. Still, I feel like this is little bit too much. Okay, 20 members is too much. 20 members means something like maybe 10 developers or 12 developers, maybe 3 testers, 1 Scrum Master, and so on. So for me, it's little bit too much. So therefore, I'll go for only 3. I'll go for C. Anyway, let's see what the examiner's thought is, or maybe what is mentioned in your note is 11. Yes, C. Right, C. Because this is little bit too much. Okay. So let's ask from maybe what is the ideal team size for Agile? Maybe it's mentioned in your note also, but let's ask from maybe ChatGPT. What is preferred team size for Agile development or Scrum-based development? maybe less than 10. You can see 5 to 9 members. 5 to 9 members. So that is sort of the preferred approach. Okay, 5 to 9. So just keep a note of that also. Okay, because 20 is too much. Right. Now let's move on to 12. Consider the following activities and artifacts of Scrum framework and select the most suitable terms, labels A to D. A to D. Right. So that is the easier one. A is product backlog. Okay. Product backlog. Not product backlog grooming. This is product backlog grooming. Okay. This is product backlog. Product backlog grooming, sprint planning, sprint planning. So I'm pretty sure now the answer is A. Anyway, let's see. B, that is sprint execution, right? Sprint, different iterations. C, what is C? So maybe inspect and adapt, inspect and adapt. So it can be sprint retrospective as well. Then what about B? Sorry, this is D, right? So then what is B? Okay, they have mix it. Okay, they have mixed it. So therefore, let's look at it fresh way. So this looks more product backlog, but can they take product backlog grooming? Or is it sprint planning? So the image is a little bit confusing. Okay. D, C, B. B must be end task. Okay. B must be end task. Maybe product increment, sprint retrospective, sprint review, sprint retrospective. Okay, both all are end things. But sprint retrospective is done after release. So this look like a very last one. So therefore, I feel like this should not be product increment. I'm not very sure. Okay, this is very confusing one. So is this product grouping? Okay, now let's see whether A is correct first. B, sprint execution. It goes like this. Look at this, right? It goes like this. Now only I have found that. It goes like this. Okay. So therefore, now let's see if B is sprint execution, C is sprint retrospective, and D is product increment. So that makes sense. Now only I found that it goes like this. Okay. I thought goes like this, but now only I found that there's this one. Okay. So it looks fair, right? Product backlog, because this is the grooming. So this must be the product backlog. Then you have the sprint execution, sprint retrospective, and the product increment. Of course, product increment is your end product, last final thing. Sometimes, of course, product retrospective can be done after the release also, but maybe just before the release also. Okay. I'll go for A. I'll go for A. Okay. So that is question number 12. Examiner has gone for E. So what is the examiner's answer? 12, right? Yes. Examiner has taken this as sprint planning. Yeah, maybe, right? Because you create the sprint backlog here. I completely missed that. So after this task, you can see we create the sprint backlog. So if we create the sprint backlog after this task, it must be sprint planning meeting. Yes, right? Sprint planning meeting. So then, but that is, it looks like the correct thing is first you get the product increment, then you do the sprint. Yeah, that is also correct, right? Because without product increment, you can't do the sprint review, right? Explain it, deliver it to the product owner. I think, yes, this is correct. I completely miss it, right? So this is your sprint planning meeting. Now you have the groom product backlog. So then you create the sprint backlog. Then of course you do the daily scrums and execution. And now you get the, at the end, you get the product increment. Now you can do the sprint review and the retrospective. Sprint review and the sprint retrospective must be the last thing, because it must be done even after the sprint review. I think that is correct answer. I completely missed that question. So this is a correct answer. There's no issue with the question. Definitely this is sprint planning. Then this you get the sprint backlog. Then you execute it. You have the product increment. You do the sprint review with the product owner. Then do the process or the retrospective to improve the process, lesson learned, and so on. Yes, so the answer must be E. Okay, answer must be E. Right, next question. Which sorry, which of the following roles is involved in Scrum methodology? In Scrum, there's nothing called tech lead. Yes, we have product owner. Remember, product owner, Scrum master, team members. So no business analyst, no product manager, no QA engineers. Formally, right? Maybe informally we have. Formally, Scrum defines Scrum master, product owner, the team members. So the answer is B. 14. Who will usually participate in sprint planning? So ideally everyone. Okay. Scrum master must be there. Product owner must be there. The development team must be there because they are the one who are going to do it. So I'll say all. In agile development, almost all the activities, everyone participate. That is the visibility we expect in agile development. There are no hidden meetings where only set of people participate. That is openness. Okay. I'll go for E. Yes, 15. So this is a burn down chart. Remember, burn down charts are drawn for the sprint. Burn up charts for entire project. Okay. Sorry, burn down chart is for a Scrum for one cycle, because requirements are usually fixed. And ideally, we want to get into the zero. Okay. Anyway, this is because it's a fixed scope. Yes, because it's a fixed scope, we can do a burn down chart for a entire project also, because fixed. When the number of user stories are fixed, burn down chart is okay because it is not a moving target. But when the new requirements can come, you must go for burn up chart, because then we can adjust the target. But when you go down, you can't adjust the target. So that is the idea. If it is fixed scope, you can go for burn down. If it is variable scope, you better go for burn up. And if you take iteration or Scrum, usually fixed scope for that iteration. So therefore, for iteration also, you can go for burn down chart. So burn down chart can be used for iteration, for entire project if it is fixed scope. Otherwise, go for burn up chart. Right. So question. Which of the following statement is correct regarding given burn down chart? Burn down chart. So this is sprints within release. So this is for entire project because it's a fixed scope. Okay. So release 1, release 1, release 2. I don't know why this is 1. This should be 1. Release 4 and blah, blah, blah. Ideally, by end of release 8, you must have done all the work. Okay. average. Optimistic, you should be able to finish at 7. Pessimistic, you may need 9 sprints. Okay, this is for the overall project. Right. The team has completed 100 story points at the third sprint. So this is the actual. This is the actual. So at the end of third sprint, that is this, yes, roughly 100, not 100 done, 100 remains. So start at 150. So therefore, at the end of third sprint, team has done 50 stories. 50 stories, not 100 stories. Okay, so therefore this is wrong. Has completed 80 story points at the end of fifth sprint. At the end of fifth sprint, you are somewhere here, right? Maybe somewhere between 75 and 100. Okay, so 150 to 100 is 50. It can't be another 70, another 330, because this is also 25. It must be less than 25. So it must be maybe 120, 110 or something. So therefore it can't be 80, right? Because this is 50. This is 50. And if you go for this point, another 25, that is 75. But this is less than 75. So therefore it can't be 80. It can't be 80. Okay. It can be 80 also, right? So this is 25, maybe 5 less. No, not 5 less. It must be another 30. No, this can't be. Because 50 to 80, you need another 30. But up to this point also, it's just another 25. Okay. So up to this point also 75. So therefore this can't be. Has 150 story points remaining at the end of the given release planning. Has 150 story points remaining at the end of the given release planning. What is mean by at the end of the given release planning? That I am not very sure what is this, what this statement is. Okay, let's keep it open. Will finish all the work allocated for the given release by 7 sprint if they work with lowest velocity. So lowest velocity is this one, right? This one, low. So it will take, according to the plan, and it will take 9 releases. Okay. Will finish all the work allocated then by 7 sprint. No, not by 7 sprint. 7 sprint is if you go with your best velocity. Best velocity. So therefore that is wrong. Will finish all the work allocated for the given release by 8th sprint if they work with highest velocity. So if you go by highest velocity, they can finish it at the end of 7th one, right? 7th one, not the 8th one. 8th is the actual one, or average one, and actual one is also pretty much according to the average, it looks like, because actual things have already happened. So I say no. Okay. Right. So now C has 150 story points remaining at the end of the given release planning. I think at the end of the release planning, so they have, maybe they have, yes, they have predicted that they have identified that they have 150 story points to do. This is because at the end of the release planning, that means at the beginning of the execution. So they have identified that, yes, we have 150 user stories. Okay, story points. So I'll go for this because I can't find any other answer also. Right, so that is why I just kept it open because it was not very clear. But because other answers are wrong, I will settle for this anyway. Right, so I'll go for C. So 15th, I will go for C. Yes. Okay. Right, 16th. Which of the following is an output of portfolio planning? So portfolio planning is very high level planning, managing your business projects as a portfolio of business. That is done by high level managers like IT managers and so. Which of the following is an output? Definitely not the sprint backlog. That is after sprint planning. In progress data, product backlog, portfolio backlog. Usually it is the portfolio backlog. So which projects we want to work in what order to make it business sensible manner. Okay, not the daily backlog. So possibility are B and D, but in progress data, no, I feel like portfolio backlog is the best. 16. Of course, this is specifically mentioned in your note. I think this is specifically mentioned in your note, but I just go by my gut feeling as well. I'll go for D. Yes. 17. Which of the following is the responsibilities of a product owner? Groom the product backlog? Yes. Of course, there are team members involved, but product owner is the main person. Participate in planning? Yes. Basically, everyone involved in everything. Collaborate with the development team? Yes. Okay, so I'll go for E. Most of the time when there's activity, everyone participate. Of course, one person will take the leadership or the ownership, but everyone participate. Okay. It says responsibility, but anyway, responsibility is shared among everyone. I don't know. That is my usual sense about agile development. So I'll go for E. Yes, 17E. 18. So the idea is everyone responsible to everything. Of course, one person will take that leadership, accountability, but responsibility is for everyone. That is part of the agile philosophy. Openness, collective ownership. What is the role of Scrum Master in agile? Prioritizing the product backlog. No, that is product owner's task. Remove impediments. Yes, remove obstacles. Decide on the feature to build. That is more product owner's task. Create the product backlog. Product owner's task. Provide the acceptance criteria. Product owner's task. Definitely answer is B. 19. What is the measure taken to calculate the velocity of the team in Scrum? Right. Measure. What is the measure? Measure is number of story points per iteration or sprint. Right. It is story points. Right. Usually we call it story points rather than user stories because user stories can be slightly different size. So therefore we do something called user story points, not the total days of sprint or remaining days of the sprint. Okay. This is the velocity of the team. And remember, it looks like only one answer is there. So therefore, I easily eliminate some answers. So far, that assumption has worked, right? For last 3 years, it's only one answer. But again, don't believe that that will happen in your case. But once you look at your answers, after analyzing about 10 answers, maybe you can come to that conclusion. So I have already come to that sort of a conclusion, but I never know, maybe that from 20th onwards, multiple answers are there, but I'm cautiously using that as a guideline so far. So therefore, I'll go for story points. Yes. 20. Development team members are expected to participate in each, during which the team progress will be inspected and the plan adapted for the current day's work. So that is daily stand-up meeting or sprint daily meeting. Okay, daily, not daily scrum, sprint, not sprint review, not sprint retrospective, not sprint backlog refinement, daily scrum, sprint planning. Remember, sprint is your project. Sorry, sprint is iteration. Scrum is usually daily work. Okay, daily work. So daily work is a scrum. Sprint is iteration. So that is why we have the sprint review meeting, sprint planning meeting. So that is one iteration. So therefore, it is not sprint planning because this is current day's work. So therefore, I'll go for daily scrum or daily scrum meeting. Okay, daily scrum meeting. So ideally, should have been daily scrum meeting or stand-up meeting. But anyway, the closest I can take is daily scrum because it's not sprint review. It's not sprint planning because sprint is for iteration. Right. So I'll go for A. A. 21. Which of the following type of charts for a fixed scope release shows the total amount of work completed? Which of the following type of charts for a fixed scope? If it is fixed scope, we can go for burn down. Variable scope, we must go for burn up. Okay. Fixed scope shows the total amount of work complete. Total amount of work complete is from here to here. How many story points up to this point? Start at 150, now 100, that means we have done 50. Right? So usually for fixed scope, we go for burn down chart, not for burn up chart. Okay, because it's fixed scope. Not team holiday charts or company performance chart or scrum ceremony. There's nothing called scrum ceremony chart. Okay, so I'll go for B. Examiner has taken A. So even though they say fixed scope, examiner has taken burn up chart. So that is little bit debatable, right? Why that examiner took? Because usually fixed scope, we can go for burn down as well. That is one of the question previously also, right? But examiner has taken A here. That is sort of a debatable one. Total amount of work complete. Shall we just look at your note and get a clue about that? Maybe sprints or scrum planning. Burn. So you can say fixed scope release burn down charts. Shows the total amount of unfinished. Maybe it's more for the unfinished work, right? So the question says finished work, right? Maybe that is the reason examiner has taken this. Total amount of work completed, finished work. So this is total amount of unfinished work. But anyway, you can calculate the finished work also. But maybe that is the reason examiner has not taken burn down. Okay. So that is, let's say, burn down chart. Maybe then burn up chart. I can say fixed scope, burn up chart. So you can go for burn down or burn up chart because it's fixed scope. But burn down chart mainly shows what remaining, right? Unfinished work. Okay, unfinished work. That is our major focus. But when you go for burn up chart, our major focus is how much we have done. Okay, how much we have done. Shows the total amount of work in a release as a good and progress of each sprint. Total amount of work in a release as and the progress of each sprint towards achieving that goal. So it shows our focus is pretty much how much we have done in burn up chart. In burn down chart, the more focus is how much remain. So therefore, for fixed scope, we can go for either burn up or burn down, depending on our focus. If our focus is how much work done, go for burn up. If our focus is how much work remain, go for burn down. But fixed scope, you can go for any. But if it is variable scope, usually no point going for burn down because the user story, number of user story vary. Okay. You can see traditional burn. Now, if it is a fixed date, even burn down and burn up, both are not going to work. So they ask why, right? So that means they want you to think about it, right? That is when the fixed date. Okay. Because it's a moving target. It's a moving target. Right. So anyway, that is a fair answer because question, I didn't go into the details. It says total amount of work completed. If total amount of work completed is your major thing, you go for burnout because that height is the total completed so far. Right. Next question. So the answer is burn up chart. Right. 21 burn up chart. 22. At the of each sprint, we update the burn down chart to show the total amount of work remaining within the release. Right. Within the release, burn down chart. So burn down chart can be used. Total amount of work remaining. So second date, fifth date, seventh date. Usually these are not going to be the answer. Usually there are no magic numbers like that. Okay. Maybe end or start. At the end, at the of each sprint, we update the burn down chart to show the total amount of work remaining within the release. So usually this is fixed scope project. So then at the end, we need to update so that we can see how many user story points remaining for the next releases, right? So therefore, I'll go for at the end. Okay. Each sprint. Sprint එකේ මුලදී අප්ඩේට් කරන්න දෙයක් නැහැ නේද? අගදීනේ අප්ඩේට් කරන්න ඕනේ. මොකද මේක ස්ප්‍රින්ට් එකට අඳින එක නෙමෙයි. මේක ඇවිල්ලා overall අඳින release එකට අඳින එක. So usually we need to update it at the end. I'll go for it because start, what is the point of updating it? These are just magic numbers. I don't see that there's a possibility of this getting answers. Okay. I'll go for D. Yes, answer is D. එතකොට ඒක ඉවරනාම අපි අප්ඩේට් කරන. ඒතර අපි දන්නවා තව ඉස්සරහට කීයක් තියෙනවද? නැත්නම් අපේ රිලීස් ටික අපි on planned. When a sprint retrospective ceremony performed, when is a retrospective, that is at the end after giving the release, that is the last activity. Whenever needed, at the end of each sprint, whenever the team suggests, whenever the Scrum Master suggests. No, answer is definitely B. 23B. 24. What is done during sprint review meeting? Right? Sprint review. Demo the increment. Yes, that is part of it. Discussing the project's architecture and technical aspects. No. Discussions to improvement applicable for future sprint. No, that is sprint retrospective. Collecting team members' ideas. No. Creating the sprint backlog. Answer is demo the increment and see whether things are working. Getting the feedback. 24A. 25. Which of the following statement express the meaning of a cross-functional development team? Cross-functional means they can handle everything. Self-contained team. They can do analysis, design, development, everything. The team consists of developers and testers. Every team member is capable of everything. Both development and testing can be done using a single person. Team works with other teams collaboratively. The team comprises members with different skills necessary to deliver the increment. Answer is E. Simple question. Right, E. 26. What are minimum releasable feature? MRF. So that is ready to release feature, right? Minimum releasable feature. Randomly selected feature set? No. Topmost feature set of the backlog? No. Yeah, maybe. Okay, let's keep that open. Because the topmost are the must-have things, high priority things. right? So sometimes high priority things are also our minimum releasable. Okay, let's keep that open for the time being. Because remember, product backlog is prioritized. Top items are the highest priority. The features simply have to be in the release if we are to meet customer value and quality expectation. So that is a fairly good one. The largest set of features cost that the most money taken takes the most time and blah blah blah. So that is not correct. The smallest possible feature set that costs the least money, take the least time and has the least risk. So that's also fairly good one, but your slide must have very definite definition for this one. Uh, Minimum releasable features. So the features simply have to be in the release if you have to meet customer value and quality expectations. So I think this is very straightforward answer. I prefer to go for C, but there should be a proper definition in your note. Okay, just go by your definition also. But I will just go for C. 26. Yes, 6. So that should be the definition in your note then. The features simply have to be released. So that is essential if you have to meet customer value and quality expectations. Okay. So just refer to the note also, UCSC note. Okay. 27. Which of the following statement is are correct regarding extreme programming life cycle? That is before Scrum we use XP, which is little bit complicated version of Scrum. A team can make deployable software once every 4 weeks. Right? 4 weeks is little bit too much. So basically team has sort of a continuous integration. Okay. But anyway, let's see, keep it open. The real customer must be sitting with the team full time. I don't think that we need to do that in full time. Only qualified testers participate in testing. No, testing is everyone's task. Programmers share the ownership of the code. Yes, programmers share collective ownership. It is not my code, your code, and so on. So it's everyone's code. So that I like. Share collective ownership. The same developer is responsible for maintaining his code. No, that is not collective ownership. So since it looks like only one answer is there almost everywhere, I'll go for D. Okay, I'll go for D. Because this is 4 weeks is too much. Yes, answer is D. 28. Which of the following statement is correct regarding XP teams? Daily stand-up meeting take 2 to 4 hours. The project managers divides the workload among 10 team members. Project manager, okay, let's keep it because it's XP. Requirements are provided by the on-site customer. Yes, most of the time requirements are provided by on-site customer. So that is a good point. Only domain expert can be, no, there's nothing called only domain expert can be a on-site customer. The programming coach does not have to participate in coding. So programming coach can participate in coding, okay? Because he is also expert. Which one we go? So this says project manager. So therefore I don't like that answer. So I'll go for C. Okay, C. And I think this is okay. Therefore I'll go for C. 28. Yes, answer is C. Okay. 29. Which of the following statement is correct regarding pair programming? Remember, pair programming means two programmers sit together and work on one feature. So one take leadership maybe in the morning, afternoon maybe the other guy is taking the leadership. So it's sharing your work, right? It's less stressful because you always have another person to think, right? So issues are quickly identified. You can come up with better solutions because it's not just your solution, both agree. So maybe the other guy has a better solution in that situation. Okay. So a lot of advantages. But in Sri Lanka, pair programming is very rarely used because they thought දෙන්න එකතු වෙලා කයිය ගහන්න පටන් ගන්නවා මේ. So we do pair programming informally but not in a formal manner. Until දෙන්නම මුකුත් කරන්නේ නැහැ. So because in Sri Lanka, now remember in other countries, they have gone for, they no longer use exam-based education. So they no longer use exam-based education. So they use assessment-based, skill-based education. But in Sri Lanka, we can't do it. So in Sri Lanka, if someone says, say, "Mama අධ්‍යාපනයමදී නම් මම කිව්වොත් එහෙම අපි exam නවත්තමුද කියලා මම කියන්නේ එපා. අපේ සමාජයේ ඒකට mature නැහැ. mature නැහැ. එතකොට අපේ ගුරුවරු ඉන්නේ මහා හාල් කෑලි. යාළුකමට ලකුණු දෙන කට්ටිය. එතකොට කොහොමද? assessment based වලට යන්නේ. assessment based වලට. ඔයගොල්ලෝ විශ්වාස කරනවද දන්නේ නැහැ. මම O level කරන්න කලින් මම O level කරලා තියෙන 1980 ගණන්. ඊටත් කාලයකට කලින් O level වල exams නැවැත්තුවා. ඔයගොල්ලෝ විශ්වාස කරන එකක් නැහැ. exam නැවැත්තුවා. නවත්තලා කිව්වා 100% student evaluate කරන teacher. task base. 100% exam නැවැත්තුවා අවුරුද්දකට. O level. තාම මේ කරගන්න බැරුව තියෙන දෙයක්. හරි. ඒකට ඒ දවස්වල සමාජයේ මීට වැඩි දියුණුයි. මේ වගේ හිඟන කාලකන්ණි බංකොලොත් රටක් නෙමෙයි ඉස්සර තිබුණේ. හැබැයි වැඩේ කරගෙන යන්න බැරි වුණා. ඇයි ඒ? ගුරුවරු නේ ගුරුවරු ලකුණු දෙන්නේ කොහමද? යාළුකමට, නෑදෑකමට, Tamanට පන්නම් අල්ලන කමට, තෑගි දෙන නේද? කේක් ගෙනල්ලා දෙන කමට. වැඩේ අතහැරලා. ඒ රටවල් වල ඒ දිගටම යනවා. නමුත් අපිට යන්න බැහැ. So therefore this pair programming is also like that. Okay. ලංකාව වගේ රටකට එච්චර හරියන්නේ නැහැ. මොකද අපේ මිනිස්සු මේ level එකට ඇවිල්ලා නැහැ. Right. So person who code is known as navigator. නෑ code කරන එක නෙමෙයි navigator. Navigator කියන්නේ code කරන්නේ නැතුව help කරන කෙනානේ. අර වාහනයකට ඉන්නේ navigator සහ driver. driver වගේ එක්කෙනා තමයි code කරන්නේ. Switching navigator driver roles frequently is a good practice. ඔය ඒක switch කරන්න ඕනේ නේද? නැත්නම් එක්කෙනෙක් විතරක් වැඩ කරනවා අනිත් එක්කෙනා නිකන් ඉන්නවා වගේ නේද? So that you need to do, I don't know whether it's frequently is a good word, but you need to do that. Let's keep it. Possible answer. The navigator should criticize the driver's code. It is not criticize, both are collaborative to do it, right? It is recommended to keep the same pair for several weeks. But usually we like to change the pair. Right? So then only you get better knowledge sharing, exposure, and so on. So that is sort of a debatable. The programming pair should always be at the same experience level. No, there's no such thing. Maybe we can have little bit junior developer with a senior developer so that the junior developer can absorb the best practices and things faster. So there's no such, I don't think that that is good. So it looks like for me, the more relevant answer is, I don't know whether frequently is a good word, but we need to switch roles. Switch roles. I'll go for B. Yes, answer is B. 30. Which of the following statement is correct regarding refactoring XP? Refactoring means we frequently change our code, improve it. So when we see there's a small improvement we can make, we make it. And anytime. It may be not something you have done, but you as a developer, you feel like, okay, I can improve this. Maybe simplify the logic. So we do it. That is called refactoring. Continuously we do this. Continuously we improve the code. Refactoring is the process of changing the design of the code without changing its behavior. No, not, of course, when you change the design, it will change the behavior also, right? I say no. Describing the business logic in your current system to a non-programmer domain expert. That is not refactoring. Following a coding standard and keeping the code consistent. So that is a good point, but okay. So that is the idea. So if you feel like there's something wrong, we fix it. If someone has violated, we fix it. Okay, let's see whether there are better answers. But this is not the ideal answer, but somewhat okay. Keeping the build up to date and integrating continuously. Okay. Combining the expertise of the whole team to create achievable plans. Now, this one is little bit debatable. Combining the expertise of the whole team to create achievable plans. So that is not directly related. Okay. So I have two sort of possibilities, but following the coding standard and keeping the code consistent. So I'll go for C because one of the idea of refactoring is comply with your standards, right? Comply with your standards. If you feel like it's your standard, you fix it. Maybe it's someone else's code. I'll go for C. Right. Examiner has taken E. A. Change in the design of the code without changing the behavior. I don't know whether that is a very good way to express it, but maybe that is how it is mentioned in your note. Okay, let's double check your note because I really doubt about this answer. Maybe that is how it is mentioned in your reference book. Okay, so that should be maybe extreme programming. Refactoring. Is not much mentioned there. Maybe agile principles. That is another possible place. Should be somewhere in, then it should be somewhere in extreme programming. Is it testing? No, right? Anyway, I can't find it in your slides directly, but let's have a look at it, okay? Let's double check for the final time extreme programming because this is where it's usually mentioned. But it's not mentioned. Okay, so just double check maybe in the reference. Okay, but anyway, it's a little bit of a fuzzy answer. Okay, right. So that's it. We did three past papers. MCQ we have done three past papers. So let's do the 2020 structured paper also. Then, so our discussion on agile is over. Okay, so let's do this and finish it. Then we can move on to project management. I think we did not do 2022 papers last time. We want to do it today. Okay. I think we did only one question. Right. So let's first finish the structured paper. Agile. We are done with this. Right. 2000. Is it 2021 or 2020 we need to do? 2021 we did, right? Yeah, we need to do 2020, right? Yes, 2020. Structured paper. If we did not do 2021, let me know, okay? I think we did. But 2020, we don't have second paper, right? Let me double check in the University VLE. It looks like we don't have the 2020 second paper. semester 4. Four, 4406. 2021. 2020 is there, right? That that is computer network. Does anyone has 2020 Agile second paper? Yes. Network. That is not Agile, rapid software development. But that is 2019, right? 2020. But it says 2021. But it looks like that is the 2020 paper. But that is all syllabus paper. Okay. Anyway, let's do this. I'll make a make a Right. So let's do this paper. පේනනේ papers වල academic year එක තියෙන 2010 කියලා. ඒවත් හදලා නැහැ. Right. So අපි මේ කරා නම් කියන්න මම හිතන්නේ කරේ නැහැ. හරි. But anyway, this is rapid software development because this is all syllabus. Because your syllabus changed about 2 years ago. So therefore, before this is the previous year. So therefore, the subject name was at that time rapid software development. But the syllabus was pretty much the same. But it had less emphasis on agile, more emphasis on iterative development. Okay, so therefore let's do it fast. Make up karane. This paper we did last time. That is agile 2006. Yes, so this is the previous one. Right, so let's do this quickly. This is little bit out of syllabus, some questions slightly. Okay, so therefore don't take it too seriously as well. One of the challenges in software engineering is responding to ever-changing environment. Yes, so that is why we want to go for agile also, right? We want to be agile. One of the reasons software project environment may change is change in technology. Let's list 3 other reasons, right? So change in technology is one reason, right? What are the other things? So the fast-moving business environment, high competitive. So that is another reason, right? What else? What else? Maybe we, not only the technology, the way we develop software is getting changed, right? So that is another thing. So likewise, you need to think, okay? So what are the typical answers, right? So requirement anyway, change in the environment is requirement. Change the way we do the designing, the team changes. So that is another thing. Team members tend to go from one company to other company frequently. Client contracts, organization management practices are changing. Right? So many factors, right? Even political and other aspects. So things are changing quick and fast. So therefore, we need to adapt to those and deliver fast. Otherwise, when we deliver the software, it is outdated, technologically outdated, uh, requirement-wise outdated, environment-wise, right? Expectation-wise, everywhere it is outdated. So therefore, we want to deliver fast. Traditional software development projects sometimes in traditional software development projects, sometimes requirements change requests are rejected as there would be higher costs late in the development. Illustrate the cost of change curves for both traditional and agile software projects. Use the given chart to illustrate both curves and label the curves approximately. Remember, in agile development, even when absorb changes at later time, that cost is less because we are open. We have next iteration. But if it is sort of a plan-driven development like waterfall, we have done our requirement analysis. We have finalized our design. We have a fixed plan. So therefore, absorbing change is very costly. So therefore, you need to draw that curve properly. So in plan-driven development, that cost goes like this. But in agile, we can't say it goes down, but it's sort of it's not going up very rapidly. Okay, it doesn't go rapidly. Okay. So you can say traditional is going very fast, but in agile, yes, it goes up because when things change comes at the last moment or late, it costs more, but that increase in cost is not very big. Okay, very big. So this is something you must understand. So that is one of the reasons why we prefer agile, because the changes are welcome, because it's not a heavy burden to us, because our process is optimized to absorb changes. In traditional approach, the process does not support, or process is sort of reluctant to absorb changes because it's very costly. So this is one of the rationale or reason behind going for agile, because we can't say no to the changes in modern dynamic competitive environment. List 4 principles of lean. So lean means doing only productive things, right? Minimum essential things. So what are the principles? So you must remember those. Those are mentioned in your note, okay? Lean principles. Minimal ceremony, right? Value creation. So there are so many things. Customer focus. So do things customer really want. Incremental changes. So those are all lean concepts. Right? Eliminate waste. So that is the number 1. Don't do unproductive things. Amplify, quickly learn things and adapt best practices. Decide as late as possible. So don't take decisions early. ඒක ලංකාවේ මිනිස්සුන්ට තියෙන ලොකු අසනීපයක් නේද? පොඩි එකා ඉස්කෝලේ දාපු ගමන් අම්මා ගිහිල්ලා කියනවා පුතා දොස්තර කෙනෙක් වෙන්න ඉන්නේ පුතා ඉංජිනේරුවෙක් වෙන්න ඉන්නේ කියලා. මේකට තාම මේ ඉංජිනේරුවෙක් කියන මොකෙද කියලා දන්නේ නැහැ. මේකවල තීරණය කරලා ඉවරයි. පොඩි එකා අනාථයි. So same thing for project also. Decisions ගන්න හොඳ නෑ වැඩි. ඉක්මනට ඕනට වැඩි. Deliver as fast as possible. Empower the team. Trust the team. Give them the decision-making power. Build integrity. Have good ethical standards. See the whole. සමස්තය පේනකොට තමයි අපිට productivity එක වැඩි වෙන්නේ. සමස්තය පේන්නේ නැතුනම කය විතරයි. සමස්තය පේන්නේ නැහැ. සමස්තය ඇතුලේ යථාර්ථය පේන්නේ නැහැ. Right. So those are all valid points. Kanban supports. Remember, this is little bit all syllabus. ඒකන්ට question ටිකක් unfamiliar වගේ තේරෙයි. So that is okay. Right. පාඩ බලනකොට concentrate කරනවා පහුගිය අවුරුද්ද දෙක. ඒ දෙක නේ syllabus එකට ගෙලින්ම මම මේක ටිකක් අර වාඩ නිකන් වෙලා තියෙන හන්ද අපි කරන්නේ නැත්නම් ඇත්තට මේක කරන්න ඕනෙත් නැහැ. හරි. ඒකන්ද ඕනට වැඩි බය වෙන්න එපා මේ පේපර් එක තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ කියලා. හරි. මොකද මේක all syllabus එකේ තියෙච්ච content ටිකක් වෙනස්. ඒකට අනුව පේපර් එක හදලා තියෙනවා. Kanban supports incremental evolutionary change while also respecting the current process, roles, responsibilities, and titles. Do you agree with this statement? Justify your answer. Kanban is another sort of agile process adapted in Japan mostly for their manufacturing processes like companies like Toyota. So they wanted to introduce the changes. But remember, change is pain. At the same time, change or die. So change is pain, but at the same time, if you don't change, saying that it is a pain, we die. Because those who change or go past us. So therefore, we need to do some incremental change. Quickly, but incremental, not big changes. So that is why Kanban says, introduce changes gradually, incrementally. Okay. So do you agree with this statement? Yes. So we need to do changes to survive and excel. At the same time, there are resistance for the changes from some people, some parties. So therefore, we need to manage it. So the best practice is introduce these changes gradually, continuously, incrementally, so that the resistance is less. Okay. So likewise, you need to explain this. So answer is yes. Often there are high resistance and fear in organization for broad sweeping changes. In Kanban, we follow a lean approach into agile development. Therefore, changes may be inevitable. But if we make small continuous changes while respecting the current process, roles and responsibilities and stages for, the change management would be much easier and simpler. Changes කරන්නත් ඕන. ඕනට වැඩි ගැටුම් වලට යන්නත් බෑ. හැබැයි අන්තිමට changes ටික කරගන්නත් ඕන. Okay, so that is a good question. Okay, that is how we are supposed to do changes. දැන් මේ දවස්වල රටෙත් ඕකනේ කරන්නේ නේද? changes කරගෙන යනවා. නමුත් ඕනට වැඩි කරන්න යන්නේ නැහැ. මොකද ඒතකොට changes කරනකොට ලෙඩා නේද? බඩ සුද්ධ හැබැයි ලෙඩා මැරෙනවා. ඒකන අර කන අත ගාලා තමයි කනට ගහන්නේ දැන්. කන අත ගාලා තමයි කනට ගහන්නේ. කනට ගහන්න ඕන අයට ගහනවා. හැබැයි කන අත ගාලා දන්නේ නැහැ ගැහුවා කියලා. එක එක. මොකද එහෙම නැත්නම් එහෙම අන්තිමට changes කරන අතරතුර ඒ change ඔක්කොම කඩන් වැටෙනවා. මොකද මිනිස්සු resistance වලට එනවා එපා. මිනිස්සුන්ට resistance එන්නේ නැති වෙන්න තමයි changes කරන්නේ. In Scrum, balancing predictive upfront work with adaptive just-in-time work is an economical way of importance. Yes. So we do some planning, but not too much planning. Just enough upfront work. We predict little bit, big picture. But when we getting closer and closer, that is where we go for the detailed planning. That is called adaptive just-in-time work. Okay. So briefly justify your statement. So you need to say that we need some sort of a planning when we are doing things, but we must not overcommit or go into too much details about the planning, because at early days, the things are not very stable. We have lack of visibility. When we have lack of visibility, try to do a lot of detailed planning is waste of time, and it can go wrong. So therefore, we do high level planning upfront, and when we are getting closer to the reality, the real task, we gradually, adaptively refine the plan, add more details. So that is why in agile development, we even go into the daily planning. So that is where we do the detailed planning for the current day. Okay. So likewise, you need to explain it. While being overly predictive would require us to make many assumptions and would increase the cost of change exponentially later in the development. Too much adaptability would make things chaotic and inefficient. Therefore, we need to balance the two in economically sensible manner, all the while minimizing the upfront planning. Upfront work still should be there, but not to excessive level. Upfront වැඩ තියෙනවා නමුත් ඕනට වැඩි upfront වැඩ කරන්න යන්න එපා. Right? So that is how you do it. Bit of upfront planning and detailed planning later. Write an example for user story. මේක ඔයාගේ syllabus එකේ තියෙනවා නේද? User story එක ලියන විදිය. As මේ role එක විදියට මේ වැඩේ කරන්න ඕන මේ වැඩේ මේ objective එක satisfy කරගන්න. Right? As a manager, right? I need this particular report in order to take that particular decision. So, as operator, I need to enter this data so that I can get the bill prepared for the customer. Something like that. A format එකට example එකක් ලියන්න ඔයා කැමති user story එකක් අරගෙන කැමති domain එකකින්. So, as a shopper, I can read the product reviews so that I can decide on whether to buy your product, buy the product or not. So it's a user story for an online application, shopping, e-business, e-commerce application. Role, what you want to do, what is your objective, what you want to achieve by that. So that is how we use user stories. We want to make it very, very simple. User's point of view. Okay. What is the difference between epic and user stories? Remember, when the user stories are too big, we can subdivide into few related user stories. And then that big picture is called epic. Epic consists of few related user stories. So that is a big functionality. That is what is meant by epic and user story. Sometimes you don't have epic, just the user story. Sometimes maybe set of user stories are collected as an epic. Epic is a larger user stories, larger as in the larger in scope, while user stories contain few days worth of work at most. Epics contain requirements that are too big to be implemented in a single iteration. Therefore, we usually break them into smaller user stories. Podi user stories වලට කඩනවා. මොකද අපිට user stories වලට තමයි estimate කරන්න, task assign කරන්නේ. වගේ දේවල් කරන්නේ. සාමාන්‍ය user story එකක් එක iteration එකක් කරන්න පුළුවන් වෙනවා. එතකොට epics වලට user stories දෙකකට විතර කඩනවා සමහරවිට. එතකොට අපිට පුළුවන් user stories වෙන වෙනම implement කරන්න. හැබැයි ඒවා එකට related. The following questions are related to Scrum framework. Every Scrum team needs to have a single person who is identified as the product owner. Yes. It is also allowed for a team of people to perform the product owner role. Sometimes you have one product owner. Sometimes we have a team of product owners. The team is called product owner team. So why do we need team of product owners? When your system is too big, maybe one person is not expert in all the areas. Like a big software you are developing. But remember, Agile is not the best way to develop very big systems. Agile is ideally for small to medium systems. But in case you want to develop a very big system, so then you can't rely on one product owner. Maybe you have the accounting functionality, inventory functionality. Maybe that person is expert in inventory but not accounting area. So then we need maybe 2 or 3 product owners. But all the time we need a chief product owner. Someone take the overall responsibility. But at the same time, we have specific product owners. Briefly explain why some project may need teams of product owners. So you need to explain that some projects we may have bigger scope and maybe we may not find one person having the expertise in all the areas. In that kind of a situation, we can go for team of product owners with one member as the chief product owner. Because ultimately someone must take the overall responsibility. So you need to explain the reason and how you can do it. So especially when the scope of the product owner activities may be too large. That is where we need that. For one person to adapt adequately perform. In such cases, we might have a product owner team that includes people who focus on strategy and marketing. However, there will be always be a single individual who functions in the product owner role for a Scrum team. ඒ ඇත්තටම එක team එකකට ඉන්න එක්කෙනයි. නමුත් ඔයාලට අනිත් product owners ලගින් ඒ areas ගැන විස්තර ගන්න පුළුවන් related නම්. But there must be a chief product owner overall. Okay. Match the given responsibilities with the most suitable Scrum role by writing the correct label of the Scrum role. Product owner, Scrum master, development team. මේක වාට කරගන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕන. හරි. Remove impediments that are decreasing the team's productivity. That is team එක ආරක්ෂා කරගන්න ඕන වෙන එළියෙන් එන impediments වලින් කවුද? Scrum master. Scrum master is servant leader. Scrum master is a coach. Okay. Scrum master is a process champion. So Scrum master. B. Define acceptance criteria and verify they are met. Product owner. Protect the team from outside interference. Scrum master. Provide requirements and representing the entire stakeholder community. Product owner. Grooming the product backlog. Product owner. Designing and implementing the product backlog items. The team. Okay. Briefly explain release planning phase of a Scrum framework by answering the following questions. Release planning. What is the main goal of release planning phase? So release planning means planning the releases. So there are business objectives. Business objectives. We need these functionalities by these times. So then, and also we can't develop a product in a single iteration, right? So therefore we break it into small iterations and identify which iterations will cover which user stories and what are their deadlines and so on. And we plan out. That is called release planning. So you need to explain that in a formal manner. So the goal of release planning is to determine what constitute the next release and blah blah. මේ exact wording වලට යන්න එපා. මේ පරණ syllabus එකේ තිබිච්ච wording හැබැයි. Yeah. But overall you must know these things. Okay. Name 2 participants who take part in the release planning phase. Right. So obviously for the release planning, your team must be there. Scrum master must be there. Product owner must be there. Any other high level managers involved in product portfolio management must be there. So basically everyone must be there, right? Stakeholders, Scrum team, Scrum team committee team, product owner, Scrum master, ඔක්කොමලා ඉන්නවා. ඊට පස්සේ අර high level business පැත්තේ ඉන්නවා. Because this is we are giving releases to the customer. Of course, the product owner is also from the business side, but maybe any other high level people, okay? High level managers. Scrum project teams scale by having multiple right size Scrum teams. දැක්කද? Multiple teams ඉන්න පුළුවන් හැබැයි ඕනඩි ලොකු වෙන්න බෑ. Team size එක 10කට වගේ තමයි උපරිම යන්නේ. ඊට වැඩි ඕන වෙනවා නම් team කඩනවා. State 2 techniques used in multiple team coordination when there is more than one Scrum team. මේක මම හිතන්නේ ගිය අවුරුද්දක ඔයලා තාලා තියෙනවා. මොකද අපේ කතන්දරේ? Team of teams. Right? Team of teams. මේ teams වෙනම කඩන්න මේගොල්ලන්ගේ Scrum masters ලා අරගෙන වෙනම team එකක් හදන්න overall. Then the release train. So release train needs to make sure that these releases are streamlined. So they must give because ultimately they all contribute to the same product. මේගොල්ලෝ සෞන්දර්ය රිලීස් එක දීලා මේගොල්ලෝ බදාලා දෙන්න බෑ. හරි. එහෙමනම් ඔක්කොමලා සිකුරාත් දෙමු. මොකද අන්තිමට මේ ඔක්කොමල්ලාගේ ප්‍රොඩක්ට් එක යන්නේ. So that is called release train. ඒක ඩිලේ කරන්න බෑ. ඒක ඩිලේ කරොත් මේ හැමෝම ඩිලේ වෙනවා. So train always leave on time because there's another train in about 3 weeks, 2 weeks. Scrum or Scrums release trains. That is in your new syllabus also, right? Briefly explain one of the technique explained above. ඒ කියන්නේ මම එක්ක Scrum or Scrum එක explain කරන්න නැත්නම් release train එක explain කරන්න. ඒක ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ note එකේ තියෙනවා. හරි අපි ඔය කතා කරා කලින් paper එකේ. In the Scrum development process, more frequent, smaller releases are recommended. Yes. So smaller, frequent releases. Time box. Do you agree with the above statement? Justify your answer. Yes, of course. This is how we do it. Because when we do frequent smaller releases, we can absorb changes, we can provide value to the customer, competitive advantage, because we don't keep the developer things with us. We quickly give it to the customer. Because in today's high competitive business environment, customer need it before their competitor get it, that functionality. And also customer can give quick feedback so that we can fix things faster. So those are all advantages of giving frequent small releases. And also it reduces the risk because we give small releases. Right. Make a match කරගන්න ඕගලන්ට පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕන. හරි. So that is simple thing. Again, pair programming. Pair programming is one of the common practice in XP. Name another 3 such practices. XP continuous integration, right? Pair programming, test-driven programming, following standards, coding standards, adaptive planning. So those are all extreme programming concepts. Energize work, information workshop, informative workshop can work, workplace can. Burn down chart, Kanban chart, ඔක්කොම පේනවා, හැමෝටම පේනවා, visible. හංගන්නේ නැහැ. Root cause analysis, retrospective, okay. So anything. In XP, on-site customers are responsible for providing programmers. Then on-site customer තමයි දැන් product owner කියන්නේ. On-site කියන්නේ යා team එකත් එක්ක වාඩිලා ඉන්න ඕනේ නැහැ හරියෝ. Maybe they interact virtually. Requirement details upon request. Briefly explain how the above task is practiced in XP. So that you must be able to explain that. So the on-site customer means someone from the customer side frequently, right? Collaborate with the team members, clarify requirements, provide feedback, and so on. So that is very important so that otherwise there will be bottlenecks in development. If you want to deliver fast, we need quick responses. So that is therefore we want that person to be considered as part of our team. That is why we say on-site customer. On-site customers are responsible figuring out the requirements for the software. When programmers need the information, they simple ask. Customers are responsible for organizing their work so that they are ready when programs are asked for information. හැමදෙස්සම අපිට මොකක් හරි clarification එකක් ඕන නම් chat එකේ හරි වගේ බොහොම simple විදිහට over the phone එවෙලට ටක් ගාලා clarify කරගන්න පුළුවන් වෙනවා. ඒකට formally email දාලා අද රැවුවම හෙට response ඇවිල්ලා බෑ. So they basically act as living requirement documents. Living requirement document කියන්නේ requirement document එක තමයි යා. Yeah. ලොකු document එක on-site customer නැත්නම් product owner තමයි living requirement document එක. Informally. Briefly explain the main difference between iterative interaction designer and graphic designer. මේක පරණ syllabus එකේ තියුණා. හරි. ඒක එච්චර බොරි වෙන්න එපා. Interaction design is more ඔයගොල්ලන්ට මේක user experience design වලට අහන්න ඕන. More broad responsibility designing the overall user interactions, whereas the graphic designers are more concentrated on designing graphics, logos, and so on. Okay. Anyway, that is not something related to the Agile, but they have just asked it. Okay. The iteration demo is one of the good practice that help XP team and clients to collaborate efficiently and effectively. Name 3 other similar practices. Right. Iteration demo එකට අමතරව. So daily plan, retrospective is there even in extreme programming. Okay. So that kind of things. The iteration plan, retrospective, release feedback. Right. Maintaining trust, sitting together, customer involvement, stand-up meetings, everything, coding standards, reporting. So ඒවා අර ඉස්සර කතන්දර ටිකක්. ඒවා දැන් අහනවා අඩුයි දැන් අහන්නේ ගොඩක් අයට extreme මේවා නෙමෙයි scrum මේවා. Right, that's it. So that's it for the agile. So if you have any specific questions, so requirement only we can discuss it. Otherwise, now we close that particular subject. Okay.